now you're heading over to part 2 of that episode right over there. All right, everybody, we are back with Ian. This is going to be a really cool video segment. You know, you heard him in the first segment talking about a motorcycle accident and broken bones and all this stuff. So I'm going to have him get a little gory first, talk about some of the details, but talk about how he is healing so insanely fast. He's not a medical marvel. He's just using the body the way it's designed to be used with the stuff in it that it needs. So, Ian, give us a breakdown. Give us the layout of the motorcycle crash and then the healing process.
So it was, I was having a meeting at my facility. I had guys that had just flown in from Hong Kong and Thailand and California, and we were doing this new deuterium depleted hyperoxygenated water product, and which we'll start marketing and selling shortly at the cost of normal water, which is what I've been wanting to do, right? Because I know you know DDW, most people aren't familiar with it, but basically it's great for your body, but it's stupid expensive. And so I always felt guilty telling people like, oh, look, do this, it'll upregulate your mitochondrial function, blah, 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 but it's crazy expensive. And so now I can actually legitimately say, yeah, look, this is the cost of normal water, but you get the benefit of your pulse ox will go to 100 and you'll have a lower deuterium level, and it costs you the same as just a normal bottle of water. And so that I was really jazzed about that. So I was leaving, and it was, it was dusk, and these, the delegation had gone back to their hotels, and I was bopping back towards my place, and I was just buzzing down a country road and on my motorcycle, probably going a little too fast. And I hit a patch of gravel I was banking into a turn doing 60 and hit a patch of gravel. And I know you've ridden. So like when you hit gravel, it's the equivalent of hydroplaning in a car. You're basically a projectile and you can't really do anything. So I thought, oh, loss of control, textbook, I'll rock the bike over, skid it to a stop. So I laid it over on its left side. And that was fine, but then the foot peg, because I was going so fast, got ripped off. And when that happened, my leg caught the impact, right? My heel went into the ground, if you will, going 60 miles an hour sideways. And that was enough force that it rotated the entire bike 180 degrees and then face planted me into the ground, doing 60. And that impact on my left leg it's the equivalent of impact of it's called a high impact kinetic transference, right? And it's the same thing that happens to paratroopers when their chute doesn't open. So the femoral condyle, which is the big curve on the bottom of your femur, punched into the tibial condyle, which is the top curve on your tibia, which is the lower leg bone. The larger of the two are lower leg bones. So you've got your tibia and your fibula. And it took a chunk, and the femur actually drove a wedge down an inch into the top of the tibia, and the femur ended up inside the tibia. And basically, if you think of it, it was like splitting a log, and just peeled it and split my leg 6 inches down. And so that was on my leg. And then when I rotated over, it flipped me face first with the force of the bike rotating. And then, so it went into the ground at 60 miles an hour. And then we started rolling, and luckily I'm a big guy, but 600 and some odd pounds smacking on top of you as you roll, it's less than thrilling, right? So we rolled a couple of times, and then the bike eventually stopped, and I kept just shooting forward. And when I finally skidded to a stop, I was laying face up, and I kind of rocked around and went, okay, neck not broken, that's good. And then I felt around, and I was like, okay, my pants are, and I was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. My pants were just shredded. And I thought, okay, I'm probably obliterated. Am I bleeding out anywhere? And I didn't feel anything wet, and I didn't feel anything pumping. So I thought, okay, that's good. And then I started going through my limb check. I tested my left arm. Okay, I'm good. Tested my right arm. And when I tried to move my right arm, it just popped. And my clavicle had been split in two. So, and that was courtesy of the face plant. And my neck was incredibly sore because the impact of hitting the ground at 60 miles an hour was less than thrilling. And that's a pretty big kinetic transference of energy, right? And so the muscles were really sore, and then the clavicle was just broken in half and separated. And I sent you the x-rays, so you've seen it. I mean, it's, it's, 2.5, 3 centimeters out of position.
Not a mild break.
Yeah, not a mild break. And then between that and the leg, I got taken into the ER, and the next day I had consult with my orthopedic surgeon, and the guy said, listen, that's bad. We're going to have to put you together with pins and plates and screws. It's going to be 12 weeks before you can put any weight on your leg. You know, you're going to have to, we'll give you a couple weeks and then see what's going to happen with your bones and your collarbone, but it's going to take that long before anything really gets to the position where we know if it's self-aligned or if we're going to have to get it to align and pin it. And that was great and all, and I appreciated the input, but my take was, well, not everybody has a lab that's designed to do, like the extreme edge of human physical performance. So that day I did stem cell therapy that day on myself, which is very small embryonic-like stem cells. Then I started doing pulsed electromagnetic field work, the PEMF, right? I have the Pulse Center's PEMF. Then I started using red light therapy and taking, larger doses of my own C60 Wizard Sciences products. And then I was just stacking all of these modalities and literally alternating. I had the guys in my lab rig up a crane with the high frequency LED beds of lights so that they could push it over my bed. And then I bought a hospital bed and just had it set up in the lab so I could just, get there and have my team just basically use me as an experiment for a week. And that's literally what we did, is just everything, to the extreme edge of what I know to be possible, and between the stem cells, upregulating the production of osteoblasts, so I'd get new bone formation, and then pushing things back into position, and using all the different modalities to upregulate my own performance metabolically, so that I could really trigger everything, and then taking tremendous quantities of things like bone broth and minerals and Quinton water and magnesium and potassium and all of the things that I knew that would be necessary to upregulate the capacity to actually make the different compounds that I needed to reform in my system. So I just gave myself all the building blocks and then upregulated the potential for expression. And then I went back for my second consult, literally a week later, and the orthopedic surgeon wasn't going to even do X-rays, right? He was like, nah, there's no point. And I said, well, I can move my arm now. And he said, yeah, that's great and all, but there's a big difference between, a drop in inflammation, and it's cool that you can move now, but there's nothing changing radiographically. Like if I do an X-ray, it's going to be exactly the same. You're just wasting your money. Don't bother. And I said, no, I'll take the X-rays. And so, we went in and did the X-rays, and then I got, brought back into the room, and the guy walked in holding his iPad, looking at it, and was really puzzled. And I said, what are you looking at? And he said, well, you actually have a lot of new bone formation. And he was kind of perplexed, and he showed me the X-ray, and it's the one that I showed you, because it was, literally a week later, the bones were back in position and they were connected, and they were about, a third of the way mended all the way up. He was just like, he didn't know what to do. He actually jokingly made the Yogi Bear reference. He was like, well, I guess you're smarter than the average bear. I don't know what you're doing, and I said, well, I'll be back in a week, because I think he was actually a little bit frustrated with my questioning, because I said, well, listen, I understand that you don't think it's possible, but hypothetically, if I could regrow the bone in, say, another 5 days to, 80, 90% capacity, how do I ensure that the placement continues to be right? How do I, hold everything in position, make sure that there's no transference? And he's like, well, again, not possible. But if it were, and then I had to go back and say, okay, if I don't do the surgery where you put all the plates on the side of my legs with the screws and the pins through the bones to hold everything, what happens? And he goes, well, it's not going to heal like that. You just can't, the bone won't mend like that. It has to be held together, and, you've got to do this and this and this. And I said, right, again, but hypothetically, if I could. And he goes, well, it depends on the placement of the condyles and if they line up and if the pockets are correct. So we did more X-rays on my legs, and as fate would have it, everything lines up the proper way. And there's enough new bone formation that's happening at this kind of bizarre rate that, the initial take was I wouldn't be able to put any weight on my leg for 12 weeks, what I was told very explicitly, like, you're completely effed up. Nothing's happened to that leg for 12 weeks. The big vertical split down the thing, you're hosed. Well, I started walking yesterday. So, that's.
And how many weeks out are we?
1.5. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's not really, it's not some magical difference. It's looking at the science and saying, okay, this is the best that we have now. But again, like I always tell people and my students and everybody else, science is a point on a line. The best thing we have now will seem silly in 1,000 years. And so I know what I'm doing.
10 years, it'll seem silly.
Man, the changes in the technology, God bless, it happens so rapidly. Like I'm kind of at the bleeding edge of things right now, but all of this stuff will probably be low tech another 10 years from now. Like the pulse magnetic fields that I use and the way I dial that in, I really think, even though it makes a profound difference, my intuition tells me that it hasn't been dialed in properly. Like I know that there are things there that I'm missing. I can just feel it, right? Like, you know, when you pretty much nail it, you know, when you're kind of a little off. And I know with that, it's eliciting the proper response, but it's not optimized. And, you know, I hadn't had anybody else to experiment on to try and do this. It wasn't, honestly, it really wasn't something. I had been working on some regeneration technology that I was going to use for soldiers and some things like that a couple of years ago. And it was mostly rapid wound healing and things like that, you know, perfusion with hyperoxygenation and nanoparticles and red light and upregulating cell function and, you know, like basically overclocking cell cycles, stimulating complex 4 of the electron transport chain so you can oscillate cytochromes and get them to rapidly advance healing cycles. So I had worked on all that stuff. So this was kind of a great opportunity for me to be like, well, all right, I'm an experiment, right? Let's see, you know, I'll put my money where my mouth is. Let's see if I'm, you know, the normal fodder for normal science, or if I can actually do something different. And so right now the performance is great. Like, I mean, you know, feel free to show those x-rays, because that's, you know, that's 1 week post horrible separation of the clavicle. And I know that that's not the common thought, but it's not anything special. It's just good science. You know, it's just using the tools that literally everybody has at their disposal if they know what to ask for, right? Like, it's not like I built special pulsed field equipment. You can go to a pulse center's place and use that equipment. Like I have another friend whose daughter broke her leg, and literally that's what he did, is he took her to pulse centers and ran 3 45-minute sessions every day. And in 5 days, the fracture was gone, literally gone. You know, so it's doable. I just think most people don't know the questions to ask.
Yeah. No, I think that's powerful. And for everybody that's watching, you know, yeah, Ian's a smart guy and he has a lot of this available, but that doesn't mean your body is not as smart as his body, right? Our intelligence inside is still our intelligence inside. The wisdom in there, right, is powerful. Right. So you can heal by doing the right things.
Yeah, it's literally nothing special. Anybody is capable of having these results and getting that same outcome. They just need to know the right questions to ask. And like when you're, unfortunately, I mean, I wear a white coat too. So, you know, like when you tell people something while you're wearing a white coat, they kind of, you know, they sort of, you know, bow down to it. But when somebody in a white coat tells you, I'm sorry, it's going to be 12 weeks, you can't walk. Well, you can believe them. Or you can go, well, what does the literature say, right? Like, what's the best practices? What are the statistical outliers? Because right now, all I am is an aberration. I'm a statistical outlier, but I'm not alone. There are plenty of statistical outliers, right?
Yeah.
You just look for that, find the exception to the rule, address that, see what those cats did, and then just duplicate it.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. So everyone, if you haven't been like in awe this whole time, make sure you head over to wizardsciences.com, check out all of Ian's stuff. And this is the tip of the iceberg. I know he's saying he's reaching this capacity, but I know he's charging forward. He already told you about, you know, the deuterium depleted water and really cool things. And I think, again, he's just scratching right now. I know he's working on all cylinders, but I think we're gonna see some really cool things come from Ian in the very near future. So dude, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
This is awesome. Yeah. I'm happy to have been here. This was great. Thanks.
Yeah. So everybody, just make sure you scroll down in the show notes on the website, just check all the details. We'll connect you with him on social, obviously through the website. And, you more than likely will be seeing and hearing from Ian again. I have a really good feeling about it. So brother, I appreciate it.
All right, man. Peace out.
So you're still here. Awesome. I want to thank you so much for watching part 2 of this episode. Make sure you scroll down on the page you're on right now and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You definitely want to be the first to get information on new episodes, new videos, product launches, live events, affiliate discounts, and so much more. So have a great day, evening, or night, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.